Welcome to Learn Jazz Bass with Matt Rabicki. If you're new here, my name is Matt. I've been playing bass for over 35 years, mostly in New York City. Had the great pleasure of playing along with folks like Rodney Green and Dan Nimmer and Wynton Marsalis, to name just a few. I graduated from the Juilliard School and Berklee College of Music, and I teach at the Juilliard School in their Extension Division, as well as at the University of North Carolina School of the Arts. I'm glad that you're here. We're talking about one of the absolute GOATs, of course, Paul Chambers. If you're not familiar with that name, that's definitely a name you need to know as a jazz bass player. And we're talking about a tune of his called Visitation. I'm including this in a series that I'm doing over time called the Essential Basslines series. And the idea is to pick out larger pieces or small bass parts that we all really need to know as performing bass players. This is a great and fun one because we get to play the main melody, and it's this great bebop melody by Paul Chambers. It's on one of his albums as a leader called Chambers Music, and all those albums are absolutely fantastic, obviously highlighting Paul and his playing. What's cool about this tune is that there is no other solo other than Paul playing the melody, Paul playing a solo, Paul playing the melody out. And it's a simple idea, but there's so much density inside this whole performance. So I urge you to check out the PDF that I have linked below. It's in my free PDF library. It's essentially called a course on the website that I use, but the idea is it was the most efficient way to house and be able to search for all the PDFs that you might want. There's about 87 or so at this point. Nonetheless, so check that out. I've also included the solo from this performance in that transcription for you to explore as well. But I wanted to take some time and just look at the head of this tune because this is something that we should know. And as I say, will give us the opportunity to play the melody, perhaps in a performance at a jam session or at a concert. You get to play the melody. And every bass player pretty much knows this melody. You should know it too. I want to make a quick point that there has been a remastering of this album at some point in the recent past. And so whatever version is on Apple Music, I particularly found was much better sounding all over than even the CD version. And so I would suggest that you investigate that if you're interested. I would recommend that. This tune is based on, it uses the form and the chords from a song called All God's Chillin' Got Rhythm. And so it's fun to improvise over, not a complicated form by any means. And also it utilizes one of Paul's little things that he likes to do in his solos often. This particular little melodic cell that he does. For example, the very beginning of this solo, the melody, right? This D to C on the chord F. So D is the 6 to the 5, D to C. He uses this a lot, and I truly believe, partially because he quotes it literally in his solo, that he heard the famous a tune from the famous Broadway show Guys and Dolls called I'll Know.
Comes along, I won't take a chance.
So he truly quotes this melody that the woman sings from Guys and Dolls in his solo, and he uses this figure a lot in his solos. The more you listen, the more you'll hear him throw it in different places. So I feel like he's capitalizing on that when he created this tune. He's like, oh yeah, I'll just start with this thing I always do of I'll Know from Guys and Dolls. Let's take a closer look at the melody itself and talk about some little interesting things about it and thinking about bebop phrasing. The first 4 bars, if we look at them and think about them in a particular way, and as an aside, there's different ways to think about how one would analyze a phrase like this. But I found something interesting when I was thinking about it. This first movement, this C is the 5th of the F major, and as you probably know, the 5th as a melody note is kind of indeterminate. It doesn't really have a lot of definitive sound to what the chord would be, or it's not a color of the chord. So it has a little bit of a sense of suspension in a way. It's kind of bland. So, right? And then that's sort of the end of that phrase right there. That's a G. the chord that's happening there is C7. So there's the 5 again of C. That's one phrase. That's another phrase. That also is on a G. Now the next part of the phrase, do it out of time. That's the next phrase. Now that held note, A, is the third of F. Now we're getting a definitive color tone. So to me, I see this phrase as going like dee da, like almost like something floating in the wind. It floats sort of up on the fifth, dee da, do dee da do dee da, dee dee da do dee da da, down like that. So the sort of paper airplane or the feather has sort of temporarily landed on that A. The fifth there sort of gives it this suspension. We're suspended. Now we're still suspended, but it's more definitive as to what the sound of the harmony is. He repeats that again. Right? And now what he's doing, I'm pausing here because the chord changes here. The chord that's coming is D7, which is not in the key of F. So he is finding a way to navigate to another resting point, which will be the third of D7, which is F sharp. He's going here. So these second 4 bars, suspension, there. We have now landed on this F sharp, and it is a suspended, it's not the root of the chord, but it still is a more definitive color to the sound. So suspension, like that. Clearly defines by the fact that that F sharp is out of the key of F, it's not an F, and the harmony that's happening there, it's very much a strong note, the third of the chord that's happening there. This next part of the melody is kind of interesting if you consider what the written harmony is, which you'll see on the screen. We've got B minor 7 flat 5 to E7, A minor 7 to D7, then G minor 7, C7 to F. So it's this cycle of 2 5s that gets back to F. B to E, A, D, G, C, F. So on that first 2 5, that minor 2 5, kind of B minor 7 flat 5 to E7 in one bar, he's playing so C A, or I play C A C A F. None of that really, I mean, technically you can fit it into thinking of like an E altered scale there, but those are not the chord tones except for the A. A is a flat 7 of B. That and the D is the flat 7 of E. But what's interesting is that whether or not he intended this, think of that bar as D minor over that 2 5. He's just playing a D minor, kind of a D minor melodic, D minor major 7 because there's a C sharp as a pickup note in there. C sharp to D. That's all, he's just arpeggi. I mean, those are the 4 notes of a D minor 7 chord. Now, here on the next bar, A minor 7, D7, you can kind of say he's also perhaps thinking G minor as well, because the notes are, so G, B flat, and then the F sharp could be like a natural 7 is acceptable as a passing note in a minor chord. An approach note. So I don't know that he was necessarily consciously thinking that, but that is one way to analyze this if you want to try to sort of get your head around it that way. The best way is always just to listen and imitate and try to make your own statement based on that. But for some folks, like me, it helps to have a different path into the information so that I can understand it on a second level besides just my ears, and that helps solidify things for me. That's the way my brain works. Nonetheless, when we're thinking about bebop melodies like what he's creating, I think it's interesting to sort of take a 10,000 foot view, as I always talk about in my videos here, and notice, for example, most of the notes, the vast majority of notes in this melody and in a lot of his solo are just F major. They're just coming from F major. What makes them interesting is that they are placed on top of chords where some of those notes from an F major scale shouldn't work. But the delivery, the concept, the phrasing, the articulation, everything is so right and so accurate and so authentic to the jazz language that it completely makes sense. You completely buy it because the melody, the statement is the primary, not am I just making the changes. So just consider that while this might be, might look imposing or might sound like a lot, it's mostly just F major. And what a great opportunity for us as bass players, because we all seem to love F major, don't we? Nonetheless, because of the tempo and because of some of the intervals, it can be slightly challenging to find how to finger some of this melody. And I have to admit to you that I've never fingered it the best way in the world. I just did what worked for me and what felt easiest for my hands at the time, and then I get kind of stuck in my head, to be totally honest. I'm trying to unlearn some of that stuff. For example, the part that goes, that part. So D, F sharp, A, C, A, C, A, F, D. I tend to, because this is how I first learned it, thought of it, was I tend to go open D, F sharp, C, M, A, and then leap to C, back and forth like this, which makes no sense. It's just what my hands are used to. I'm not sure what he's doing. It doesn't so much matter. But you do want to get those articulations as to how short and how long those notes are, which note gets emphasis, and so on and so forth. So when I am thinking about better ways to finger that, for example, I'm thinking almost like an electric fingering where if my D is here, like on electric, I would play with my second finger, D, D, F sharp, A, but I'm just using open D. C, A, C, A, F sharp, F natural. And then for this fast triplet pickup thing that you see me be doing, because it is so fast, because I do believe it's slurred, I do think he probably fingered it like this, which is C sharp and then D closed, not open D. So hit the C sharp, the D is like a hammer on, and then you strike the F next. And then open G. You don't have to do open G, but I do because of what comes next. So that it gives me a chance to move my hand. I'm playing B flat with the second finger. All this is available, A and F sharp there, and so on and so forth. Another part where I use a closed string instead of open string is later on in the end of the first half. So if I'm going from, this would be measure 8, 9, 9. Yeah, measure 9. Here, A, C, D, G, A, C, D, F, G, F. The reason why is because there's less string crossing. That's why I'm doing it. And I'm not sure if he actually plucks them or not, but I usually don't. C, D, F, instead of feels a lot easier. You don't have to do it that way. It's easier for me. The main thing is just that you get the sound right and you get the articulation right. And boy, does his articulation shine when he is recorded so well like this, and it's his thing, and he's soloing kind of by himself. There's very little accompaniment. For example, the end of the solo, I want to make a point, I'm sorry, the end of the melody, I want to make a point about this. The last A section is a little different. I'm saying the last part of the form is a little different than the first part. He goes, right? You can really hear where he's laying into, really hitting that second note hard. Now, here, this exact moment, I wanted to bring out a point to you that I have seen sort of 3 different ways of playing these last 4 notes. And I believe, take it for what it's worth, that he's going C, C, D, C, C, E, F. I could be wrong. And it sounds like there's more in there, like he's going E flat, C, E, F, which I like better, to be honest. But I think he's going C, C, E, F. Take it with a grain of salt. Do whatever you ultimately like. But I thought it would be worth pointing that out to you. And then there's this great break that leads into his solo. And I don't know why, it just truly sticks with me. I love this particular break. Not fingered the very most efficient way. Feels right to me. Sounds like he probably did it that way. Notice which notes are emphasized stronger than the others within the eighth note line, a fast eighth note line. I also want to make a point that there is this moment where there's a triplet sounding thing. And I've seen other transcriptions that have this triplet here, most do, but I kind of feel like so many of them having it, and I'm quite sure it's not an exact triplet. I wonder if people are copying each other. There is a triplet, a percussive triplet thing in there, but what I think it is the result of just the way his fingers are moving makes a percussive sort of sound as he shifts around the instrument. Let me see if I can do it. It's like the combination of the strike and your finger coming up to reach another thing and so on and so forth. I don't really know, to be totally honest, how to break it down on a macroscopic level. But if you have your ear toward trying to get that sound, I bet you'll find a way to get it. It's like when you understand which note is the important emphasized note in a phrase, and you really are trying to imitate that and trying to reach that emphasized note and make it emphasized, what comes up to it tends to oftentimes naturally sound like what you're trying to imitate. What I mean is there's a natural way, physically, to reach a note, to go between 2 notes. And generally the sort of fall off, the result of that, of moving your fingers in the way we all must move our fingers, is that you get the resultant sort of triplety sound, if that makes sense. I hope I haven't lost anybody. Listening to the solo as a whole is a master class in articulations if you want to listen that deep, and you probably should. Listen to the way he plays with phrases and rhythmic displacements and syncopations and of course note choices. The main thing though, again, is that phrasing. It just gives it so much character and life. Listen to the very first couple bars right at the beginning of the solo after the break. The break again is, so that's the downbeat, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now there's this delay on the next 2 notes. And then he catches up. You kind of hear it. Definitely you'll hear it on the recording with the drums playing along with it. And then he catches that a phrase in and of itself, F sharp on an F major chord, still sounds great. So everything also really like captures, I think, like a perfect moment in time of his soloing style, because the melody is in this really soloistic style that he has. And then the solo itself, it just keeps going and going. I mean, there's 5 courses, I think, 4 courses of solo, but 3 courses solo. But it really is just Paul Chambers perfection. So thanks for joining me today. I hope that it was inspirational and somewhat helpful. Look for that PDF below, and be sure to listen to this recording. If you haven't listened 100 times already, get ready to listen 100 times because it is great. Thanks for joining me, and always remember, straight ahead and strive for tone.